set. All engines go. Welcome to the angle. Let's start the show. Hold on tight. The stage is set. Dig in deep with no regrets. Red and green bars leading the way. Welcome to the angle. No time to delay. Markets rise and markets fall. Atomcash is ready to answer the call. While the bulls charge hard and the bears dig deep, the angle will keep you on your feet. Hold on tight, the stage is set. Dig in deep with no regrets. Red and green bars leading the way. Welcome to the angle, no time to delay. Cashing in on the highs and lows where the wind of fortune constantly blows. No looking back, keep your eyes on the prize. Fuel to run with a fire that never dies. Hold on tight, the stage is set. Dig in deep with no regrets. Red and green bars leading the way. Welcome to the angle, no time to delay.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the most entertaining, intellectually stimulating financial podcast in the entire world. You're watching the Atomcash Angle, the show that flips the switch and floods the system with straight financial voltage. I'm Atomcash, and I'm bringing you the firepower your financial life may have been missing. Now, whether you're new to trading or a trading savant, I am to turn complexity into clarity with a shot of adrenaline. And today is a very chock-full day of Fed speakers, like we alluded to on Monday. We got a lot going on. We're going to talk about the stock market. We're going to talk about all the individual indexes. We're also going to talk and have a little segment on CoreWeave, specifically stock ticker CRWV, and why I personally entered a long on this position. Offers a unique opportunity, in my opinion, from a technical standpoint, even though it fell 16% yesterday. So make sure if you're interested in that, you're going to want to stay tuned on why I opened up an equity position here on CoreWeave. Real quick, before we get into the market, let's do what I like to do and take a peek at any potential catalysts that we have coming down the pike for the day. As I alluded to right at the open here, we've got Fed speakers essentially all day. We've got Williams right now at 9:20, so literally right this second. We also have Paulson at 10, Waller at 10:20. Then you have the U.S. Treasury Secretary speaking at 10:45. After that, you've got Bostic at 12:15 and Mirian at 12:30, followed by a White House press briefing at 1 o'clock. And to top it all off, you have Collins speaking right at market close. That's a lot. So you're going to want to at least be very on your toes today, especially if you're day trading, because any one of these guys could say something good or bad, hawkish or dovish, that could affect the market, could affect a position you are personally in. Be very mindful of that. Maybe consider purchasing some time on some contracts if that is something you're looking to do today if you're looking to day trade. Now, as it pertains to the stock market, yesterday, if you're part of our member over exclusive trading, our community that we run here, we talked about, or I alluded to, how yesterday we could see a lower volume day, mainly due to the holiday. And even though the market was open, we did see a relatively low volume day. Ended up with about 58 million, which is pretty low, all things considered. Our rolling or average VMA here is at 79 million on the day, so about 20 million shy. And if you're trading in real time, you noticed yesterday that a lot of that volume really didn't kick in until the end of the day, as you can see here on my chart. Even if you look at the beginning of the day, still relatively low. A lot of these, and these are 5-minute candles, under 500K, which is my barometer for risk. I like to look for anywhere from 100K for the, per 1-minute candle to 500K per 5-minute candle to kind of give me an idea of market participation. If we see a higher number or higher volume number, that gives me an idea that there's enough people participating in the market that day, at least on one of the most popular tickers, obviously SPY, right? That gives me an idea of how active the market is, so to speak. So from a risk parameter, when I'm seeing stuff like this, even in the middle of the day, we should see a little bit higher volume. And yesterday, we were having a hard time even breaching over that 500 point until we started getting towards the end of the day. And obviously, you know, power hour and whatnot. But towards the end of the day, we started getting a lot more volume. This is really where the lion's share of the volume came in, was at the end of the day yesterday. Even towards the beginning of the day yesterday, we didn't see a ton of volume. So that was enough sign for me, along with the chopping kind of motion here that we saw yesterday, that I didn't really want to take too much of an active hand in the market yesterday. I basically only traded one position on IWM, which was basically me timing the lows a little bit, and another position on NBIS coming off of ER. So obviously I had a lot of volume, a lot of activity. So I knew I had that ability, that I was trading something that was a little hotter than, you know, relatively speaking, the market. Going forward into today, right now we're currently sitting pretty snug against this 685.54 LOI up here. If we look out on our daily chart, we'll zoom in a little bit here because we got about 6 minutes to the open, so we'll try to get us as set up as we can. Let's zoom in a little bit here and go all the way up if I can. Here we go, up, 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 up. That puts us right in this neighborhood where the daily SAR is. So that red SAR level, currently it's sitting at 685.58. So you're going to want to watch that today. That breaks the daily SAR. Now, something that you want to keep in mind as you go through today into tomorrow is we have CPI tomorrow morning and PPI on Friday. Two ways this could work out. One, and both are equally as likely because we're betting on a binary event. CPI could be good, CPI could be bad. CPI may be good to you, but the market sells off anyway. CPI may be bad to you and the market goes up, right? So it depends on how it's perceived. Let's start there. But two ways this works out. One, we push at least 5 points to the upside, which in this case, if we open up here and we close up here, that puts all-time highs by the end of the week back into the conversation. Pretty cool. Big V-shaped recovery, rally into November OPEX through to December. My preferred take. That doesn't happen, which is, again, as equally as likely. We're more than likely going to come down somewhere in this zone here, north, hopefully, of 679.04, that big red line on my chart here, and south of today's open, roughly 685.12. Now, as I just kind of lightly alluded to, CPI tends to give you about a 5-point move on the SPY. So depending on where we're closing at the end of the day, we can kind of get a feel on what is more likely. It's very likely if we close anywhere in this neighborhood that we gap into new all-time highs tomorrow if CPI is perceived bullish. Again, using the word perceived. Now, if it's perceived bearish, then that gets us actually, assuming we close at 685, which we're not going to, but if we did close right on this level, that puts us still north of 679.04. So assuming, if we're making the assumption that the SPY today closes somewhere in the 685 conversation, that still leaves us bullish through to the end of November, assuming the 679.04 level holds. So either way, no matter how you slice it, it looks like we'll still be on the bullish path. It's just how quickly we stay on the bullish path or how quickly we proceed to the upside is what we want to be mindful of here in the near term. I do want to look at the weekly candles here as well and how this weekly candle is shaping up on the SPY specifically. We are setting up for, it's not an engulfing candle, obviously, because we gapped up, but we're setting up to at least engulf last week's highs, which would be very nice. And that's where we're sitting right now, is at this key level. Last week's high, 685.80. So it's a few shekels above that 54 LOI that we have on my chart here. So closing above that would be a very strong bull indicator on the weekly chart. So we're at a very interesting spot on the daily, on the weekly, especially with this daily SAR here. CPI could be either rocket fuel to the upside through November OPEX, or it could be something that just kind of delays things by a week or two and kind of leaves us with still a bullish market, but kind of more potentially, I should say, more choppy into November optics. Good morning, Toby and Omar in the chat. Hope you guys are doing well. Toby says another semi trade from Adam, huh? No, Toby, you're wrong. CoreWeave is not a semiconductor company, to be fair. So it's not a semiconductor trade. So no. Anyway, looking at the market, I want to pop into IWM real quick, and this is going to be a big catalyst driver for me. This level here, I've spoke about it ad nauseum this week, and I probably mentioned it on the stream on Monday. This 244.98 level is so important. Because of how IWM's sitting, if we compare it to the Qs and we compare it to SPY, conversely, or I should say comparatively speaking, the Qs and the SPY, even though we saw some downside moves here, have been more bullish in comparison to its Russell peer that has kind of been chopping ever since September, really. It's been range-bound, big range, but range-bound overall. Having a break above this 244.98 LOI and a continuation here is going to be what I'm looking for to get a big push on the market through to the end of the year, essentially. This is my catalyst driver here for the whole market, is seeing a bullish Russell into the end of the year. That starts with a break and a close over 244.98, which, again, CPI could affect this either which way. But with how this is setting up right now, I favor the bulls greatly here, especially with how we're in spitting distance of this area, right? We're 10 cents off of this area right now. Part of the reason why I opened up that spread that expires next week, because once we get over this level and if we close over this area, this should be nice bull momentum to the upside for your Russell 2000. All right, let's zone back in on the market here as we are about to open. We're getting close to the open, getting a little bit of a dumper-rooney there. We got about 37 seconds or so before the market opens. We're going to go through all of our Mag 7 names once the market opens as well. And don't forget, you're going to want to stick around later on in the show. We're going to be talking about specifically CoreWeave and why I personally opened up a long position yesterday and what you should keep an eye out for. But first, without further ado, let's get ready to start the day.
The market is about to open. It's time to start the day.
Alrighty, the market is just about to open with 5 seconds to go. Looking like we're going to open up just around that 685 area on the SPY. Here we are. Market is now open. And the alerts start flying. Looking like we're getting a little bit of a dump here right out the gate. Again, that level you want to watch on the SPY today is this upper LOI at 685.54. That's going to be a big spot you're going to want to keep on your radar today as we go through the day. CoreWeave getting a nice pump on the open here. Just checking out some of the names I'm currently long. Oh, geez. Getting a healthy pump on the small cap portfolio this morning, so that's good. Hopefully we see, yep, IWM looking like we're going to break that 245. Love to see that. Hopefully we see some continuation there. All right, I'm going to set an alert or two. So two things I'm watching today. Where we'll pull them up here. I'm keeping an eye on Pinduoduo, and I'm also keeping an eye on AT&T. Let me look out here. I'm looking for AT&T to break above this general area here, so I'm going to set an alert on my chart here around 2570. We'll call it 77. That's fine. Let me set an alert there, and Pinduoduo I should already have alerts. Keeping an eye on this 139.41 area. This one moves volatilely, very volatile. So this could move very quickly up or down. So you're going to want to keep an eye on that if you have interest in the Chinese market, which I typically don't, but in this case, I kind of do. They have earnings coming up next week, I believe. Let's pop back to the market, see what we got going on. Yes, SPY dumping right now, right out the gate. Quick rejection. Look at our daily chart here. That gap from yesterday, so the gap up would fill at 683.57, only 50 cents away. So honestly, might as well fill it. If we get that fill, I will probably take a 0 day. And I'll look at the 685s. Put that on my watch list over here. There we go. So if we get down and tap yesterday's high, that's where I'd look to consider a quick 0 DTE trade potentially. Put a line there. Keep an eye on it. Doop. All right. So we're looking at for that interaction on that purple line. I might take a little bit of a day trade there if we get it. If we don't, that's fine. And I'm keeping an eye on the 685 calls if we see that interaction. So we'll keep a tight eye on that for now, as that could be a nice little opening day trade opportunity here. Look at the IWM. We're over that 245 spot. Love it. That is awesome. Now, I alluded to this lightly on Monday, and I brought it up again in our community yesterday. How I was anticipating some rotation out of the Qs and back into small caps. That could be happening today, as you're seeing your weakness here. So far in the open, your Qs are the weaker spot here, while your Russell is getting that break and that bump and run. We're pushing up to the upside here on your small and mid cap names. So that seems to be why you're getting this little bit of a mixed bag on the open here. Ultimately, 680. So we'll keep an eye on the 0 opportunity on SPY if it comes back down. Let's look at our mag names real quick and see if we can see if there's a little bit more here. NVIDIA tapping that 200 MA. Could interact with the POC from yesterday's close. That's right around here at 193.95 area. So shouldn't get too much more downside on NVIDIA. That's a sharp sell-off considering the gap up in terms of price action. Google getting a hard sell right now, down about 1%. At yesterday's lows, just about 50 cents off of yesterday's lows here on Google. Really selling off right now. Microsoft also coming down. Meta, not as bad. Apple coming down pretty good as well. Tesla also pretty heavy into the open. Amazon's the only one that's still green. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. NVIDIA's green. Amazon's the only one green out of the other peers, still holding up at this point in time. Interesting. Yeah, the Russell looks like is where we're going to find that strength today, which is what I love to see because this is part of my bull thesis. I want to see the Russell take off. In a perfect world, that Russell just pushes and pushes and pushes. Guys, do me a quick favor. If you're enjoying the stream, you want to see more of the stream in general, drop a quick like on the stream if you haven't already, mostly on YouTube. So if you're watching anywhere else, pop on over to YouTube. But wherever you are, I appreciate your interactions if you're enjoying the stream. X, Instagram, Kick, wherever you are. But I like to do a little deal with you guys. If we can get at least, let's do 12 today. If we get 12 likes on the YouTube stream, I will extend the stream by an extra 30 minutes. So if you want to see a little bit more of the stream today, we'll go to at least like 11. Pop over to YouTube, hit the like button. Once we get 12 likes, we'll keep the stream going, keep the party going to 11 o'clock. All right, right now I'm taking a peek at those IWM spreads that I discussed on the program here to get an idea of where they're sitting. Sold those for, I believe, a 48-cent credit. Right now they're sitting at about 41-cent credit. So you got about $7 or so. Not too shabby. It's looking pretty good. Hatchet, no worries, my friend. Thanks for popping by. Eddie dropping the "yer" in the chat. Let's get some pirate "yers" going. Get some "yers" in the chat. Love to see it. Good morning, everybody. Ooh, okay. Just nursing some of my swings right now, making sure they're behaving. Making sure things are not falling apart while I'm live. So please bear with me just a moment here and we'll get back to the market. Got to take care of business if I need to take care of business, of course. A lot of things looking pretty good, though. A lot of the names that I'm personally long are up today, so that makes me happy, of course. But things are looking good across the board as it pertains to, again, your small to mid-cap names. Looking like they're getting a lot of love today in general, which is, again, part of my long thesis into the end of the year. IWM is just ripping out the gate here. The Qs are still pushing to the downside here. The SPY has not swung to that low. That purple line there is where I'm going to consider a potential long in the market. In fact, in this scenario, I more than likely would not want to do that. The The only reason I'm now second guessing a SPY long there is because of the strong divergence we're seeing today on IWM and the Qs, which again is something I alluded to. It might be better, or might be better off, considering just an IWM long, sticking with the strength and letting this, on the chance of a cool down, a retrace here, look for building out more of a IWM long and not fight the trend here, because the bulls are right at it. We're at the red SAR on IWM. You gotta, if you guys like shapes, I hate shapes, but one of the shapes I do like is an inverse head and shoulder. Real tiny, quick and dirty, right? It's not perfect. Don't yell at me in the comments, but you got a little bit of kind of a quick and dirty little inverse head and shoulder setting up here potentially. If we go back, and again, this is like a very small time frame, but if you zoomed into the 1 hour or something, you'd probably look a little cleaner. From Halloween to today, price action sat up here for a little bit, came down, left your head, right, your inverse head, now pushing back up. So breaking above Halloween's high is what I'd look for a continuation trigger. That is 246.79. So watch that as a daily level today specifically, which I'll mark out for you now. 246.79. 246.79. And I'll make that purple. So that's going to be a daily level we want to keep an eye out for, because that's going to break, that's going to validate, right, that quasi inverse head and shouldery kind of look, which I like quite a bit. That looks pretty solid. Omar says, stuff of nightmares, that sound. And Eddie says, how much do you pay Grumps for that sound bit? I should have Grumps do it. That would be more comical. I'm a big fan of it. It sounds more piratey than Irish. I'll say that much. So it sounds more like, Army mateys, drop some years in the chat. Right? But if I close my eyes and I think shepherd's pie, then I hear Irish. So it could go either way, honestly. It really could. Guys, make sure you stick around. I'm going to talk about CoreWeave in a little bit here. Ticker symbol CRWV. Full transparency, I did initiate a long on this name at about $90.20, if my memory is serving me right. Yesterday, I'm going to tell you guys why I like it, and why the risk to reward on this name is pretty solid, even for one of these like hyperscaler growth names, right? Why it's a decent risk to reward, even if you got in like today, it's only $2 high. It's not dramatically higher. But what I really like, utilizing some fibs here, we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Probably wait till around 9:45 before we dive into that. SPY not having an easy time getting out the block here. We're back to opens price, but not looking too happy there. Clear divergence at play between IWM and the Qs. So as the Qs get a little bit of a bump up here, I'm going to look for the IWM to reject maybe to around low 245s, 245.50. Instead of a 0, I might consider a 1 DTE, because this has a high probability of trending today if things stay the same. So even if the Qs don't die on a vine, but they kind of chop sideways, move down a little bit, that would support a thesis here for the IWM to just continue to rally and push. So for me, I'll probably look for a 1 DTE long position on IWM to build on top of my spread position, but this would obviously be more of a day trade. The spread I have time for. I can wait, right? Look for the interaction here on my fuchsia line, my light purple line here. That's your 21 EMA. Let it sit there for a bit. If we can kind of build out a base and then go, I like that. So we're gonna wait to see if we get that interaction here. I don't want to buy the rally, but let's look at, start shopping around now. At least we're prepared. For tomorrow's contracts, the 246s right now are going to be about $1. 245s are about 162. The delta on the 246 is actually really solid, 47 cents. And obviously it's going to come down as the IWM comes down a bit. That's pretty solid, honestly. And you got a gamma of 12. So if we're expecting a trend day, that's pretty solid, at least, again, for short-term trade. What I'm looking for Greeks, that's what I'm interested in. So we're going to keep an eye on that one for now. Holy crap, Merc. Ay caramba. Talk about that later. So we're going to keep an eye on this for now. We wicked the 21 EMA. I don't want to rush in. Wow, look at those. They've just swung from like $1.06 to $1.14 real quick. Now, you also have to keep in mind, especially when you're trading IWM, and especially if you're doing anything longer than a 0 DTE, they are not as active as like a SPY contract, right? The volume is much lower on them. Not that it's bad by any means, but it can be a little gappy. You tend to do have a decent spread. Like right now it's a penny spread, but it's still the open. But sometimes it can get gappy depending on how far or how close or near you are. Close or far, there we go, to the action, to the price, right? So keep that in the back of your head if you do trade IWM contracts or you have no experience trading IWM contracts. It's not really like a one-to-one in terms of liquidity if you're trading like the Qs or SPY, for example. So I may miss my entry, and if I did, that's totally cool. We'll rock the rally. Meanwhile, NVIDIA dying on a vine just went red on the day. Google just grinding down. You are seeing the big tech boys getting slammed today. Every single Mag 7 name is red out the gate. So this is a clear and clean rotation back into IWM, back to your small caps, taking a little bit more risk on now that we've passed a lot of earnings for a lot of these companies, right? Earnings season's still going on, but we passed a good chunk of those earnings, especially for our Mag earnings. All of them are out of the way except NVIDIA. So as we're sitting right now, and again, part of my thesis here, especially on IWM, breaking this key level here and seeing the divergence, seeing that we're big tech selling off and IWM's going the exact opposite direction. We have a clear and clean divergence here for the Russell, which is great for my portfolio as I am a very heavy small to mid cap trader, as I like to do. Are we back? Are we back? Can you guys give me a heads up in the chat if you can hear me, if you can see me? Anybody? Bueller, Bueller, Bueller? Am I back? Am I back? We good? Can you see me? Sorry, the internet went out on me. We good? We're back? All right, we're back. Sorry, guys. The internet blew out on me. I don't know what I was talking about. That threw me through a loop. Holy crap. So we're gonna trim some of these out. I'm gonna wait. I have time. Whew. All right. Anyway, man, IWM's going. If you guys are in the Discord, those Merc calls that I alerted yesterday, 35% right now. They're up 35%. They don't expire until April. Wow. Pretty good. Anyway, let's get back into the swing of things. That really threw me through a loop because I saw everything flash and go out. So as long as we're back now, it's all that matters. Ooh, SPY just caught a red candle. Something just happened, so I came back right on time. Let's take a peek. If you see any news, guys, let me know because I'm a little kerfuffled here. So allow me to get my ground and refresh everything because everything went black. I'm guessing it's something to do with the Fed speaker. I don't see any news. At least on my news aggregator. I'll check back in a second. That was a decent little sell-off there. It could just be a technical break for, or I should say to the downside on some of these Mag 7 names because a lot of them are very heavy today, as I alluded to. Google selling off almost 2% on the day. I would not be longing the Qs today. In fact, I'd be looking elsewhere in your small caps, your mid caps. That is where you're going to find that strength today. Look at Meta getting kicked in the teeth. Down 1% now. Wasn't looking too bad earlier. Now it is back down. Apple getting shot down here 1%. Tesla down a bit too. Damn it. All your Mag 7 names are down right now. And you know what's not? Russell. IWM is holding its highs right now. I might just have to bite the bullet and get some. This is such strong relative strength, all things considered. The market's selling off, and the Russell's just like, yeah, I don't care, bro. This is one of those times I might just bite the bullet and scoop some up. All right, I'm long the 246s at $1.31. I paid a little bit more than I wanted to, but it's kind of hard to ignore. I can't ignore how heavy the Qs are and how IWM just doesn't care and it's just going. And it looks like we're going to have that trend day. I wanted it to come down to the 21. It just didn't happen. You're holding above the POC here. Even though this was a high volume move here, the highest volume of the day on that last 1 minute candle, basically still a doji candle, when conversely, the Qs just died on a vine there, and so did the SPY. Right? Now, this is that area I was watching on the SPY to consider a 0-day option, but I'm not going to touch it now. Mainly because of the influence that the Mag 7 has on the SPY. And if we're seeing so much heaviness on the Mag 7, I don't want to be a bear on the day because the Mag 7's heavy, but also IWM is relatively bullish. So we have that discrepancy where our mega caps, right, are strong, or I'm sorry, are weak on the day, where our small caps are exercising some level of strength, comparatively relative strength, where that puts the SPY in this weird in-between point where I don't want to be a bear on the SPY here, and I don't want to be a bull either for the same purpose. Instead, I'd rather long the strength in this case, which is going to be IWM. And I know, like I said, I probably overpaid for this position, but I'm pretty confident it's going to work out by the end of the day anyway. Plus, I'm near the money, so I don't have to worry as much. But especially as we see any sort of sentiment, because this is a heavy bear sentiment on the Qs, and conversely on the SPY, pretty bear sentiment as well. As sentiment reverses, your relative strength is just going to continue going. And again, all things considered, IWM's holding up pretty good. You had a hard pump, consolidating at the highs above your POC here. We should continue here, assuming things hold together, and they look pretty solid to me. Looking around at some other names that I am personally, wow, my small cap portfolio is up 5% on the day. And if you know me, that's a big move. I don't flex port gains like that. That's a big move for the small cap portfolio. That is a massive move for the small cap portfolio. My small mid cap portfolio, the seed to tree portfolio, up 5% today is nutty. That's a nutty move. That is a portfolio that has lower risk in general. That is a nutty move. Nuts. Bananas even. We might go to bananas, guys. It could be bananas. BNNANAS. So we'll keep an eye on the Russell right now. Again, it's around my entry still. I'm anticipating this thing to get a hard move. We're over that daily level. Again, that important level you want to watch is that red SAR that we have, and on the daily. And right here, this 246.79, that's where I'll probably take a trim. But that October high, or I should say the Halloween high, that will confirm that inverse head and shouldery kind of look that we're seeing on IWM today, or potentially seeing. Breaking that, and you have this other LOI to catch you here, so you'd probably want to wait for confirmation above that. But breaking that on the daily and on the weekly sets us up really nicely. The only thing that will spit in its face, again, from a technical perspective, is more than likely going to be CPI, PPI. So if we can get through this level today, close above this level today, and CPI, PPI is perceived as bullish, rockets are going for small caps. 100%. Guys, you can still hear me, right? Because I just saw my screen flash. Are we still good? Just make sure. Let me just double check. It looks like we're good. I'm just making sure that we're still good. And now it says duplicate stream key. Are we still good? You know what I'm most excited about? If you don't know, I'm in the process of possibly moving, right? I'm so excited to have a different internet provider. That is what I'm most happy about. Hatchet says good. Okay, cool. Thank you, Hatchet. Got yours in the chat. Okay, we're okay. We're okay. I'm sorry, guys. I hate when things throw off my game. That's one of those things that's going to throw off my game. All right. Keep an eye, like I said, on IWM here. We're just going to babysit this one for now. Like I said, a lot of the other things are already moving, so I don't really want to be too aggressive on those things. I'd rather just ride the momentum here. And look at this right now. So like I said, this is where I'd consider those zeros on SPY. The contract I was considering is right here. And I'd be happy with $1 entry. Right now they're at 82. I'm not going to take it. And I would heavily suggest against taking zeros on the SPY here. Either way, again, mainly because of the divergence between IWM and the Qs. If you want to trade 1DTs, by all means, do whatever you want. And obviously your Mag 7 names are going to get some level of bounce, right? And which is only going to help the IWM that's already strong as we make a new high. It's only really going to push the narrative even more for IWM. But I would just probably stay away from zeros today on the SPY unless you're looking to scalp real quick. Mainly because these two are not in sync or not even remotely in sync. They are completely opposite, which gives you a muddled view of what the SPY is, which logically makes a lot of sense when we look into what tomorrow is, right, with CPI and PPI, or Friday for PPI. Get that muddled view on SPY, getting more of like a sideways price action, isn't really shocking, right? So we'll keep an eye regardless, but I think where you want to be today in general as a bull, and where the most opportunity today is going to lie, is going to be with your small and mid cap names. Even some defensive names are going up today pretty good. Like I said, I haven't my eyes on AT&T, and so far that one's moving up pretty decently so far. Yeah, my alert's just about to fire off 25.77, but decent move on AT&T right now. Merck had a pretty healthy move at the gate. So Merck is on track for its biggest winning streak. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This will be the 7th green day in a row. This thing's getting some real... It's a heater right now. If this taps into the 93, 94 area today, basically this 93.6, I should really put a line there. 93.56. It's... Yeah, you think they cured cancer. I love when stocks do that. What else we got going on? Path is working its way out. So similar to the IWM, making that kind of like inverse head and shoulder move, Path is kind of doing that here above the 50 MA. I got to delete this because it's old. Now, full transparency, this is a name I'm long equity and long some longer term calls on for January, I believe. Broke out of this pennant to the downside. But now again, that little bit of like an inverse head and shouldery kind of look here above that LOI and above the 50 MA. We even wicked the GP here on the 7th of November and bounced right back up. This is an interesting setup down here. I love it for equity. Be a little careful with options. I would consider more time. I believe my contracts are in January, but a little bit more time so you have a little bit more buffer there. But this is one of those names that probably moves very closely with the market and with AI in general, obviously, right? So if we do see the market rally to at least 700 or more, this name is going to be one of those names that's going to catch a lot of love from a bullish SPY, right? Oh, wow. I'm probably just going to close those out. All right. I opened up a swing yesterday on KRE, which I'm going to realize now for a decent profit. Let's slowly scale out of those. Yeah, nice 37% gain on KRE calls. I'm going to see if I can try 80 cents. I'm going to take care of my small account peeps first, see if I can get filled. Nope. Let me get more aggressive to get the hell out. 0.78. Oops. Stick with me here for a second, guys. Just want to manage this real quick. Edit. Ooh, did it fill? Oh, it filled. Let's go, baby. Let's go, KRE. Trim some of those out too, but all out KRE at 0.8 C tree. I got in on those at 57 cents yesterday and now exiting at 80, or at least for my C tree peeps, which is a lovely 40% gain. Oops. Set a limit there. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Nothing like a good overnight. If you want more of trades like that you're not going to catch here on the program, you're going to want to check out our Discord in the link below, down with exclusive trading. I know a lot of you are already part of the community, but feel free to yammer on about how amazing we are. And that's not me patting myself on our back. It's not just me even. Exclusive Trading X himself is a fantastic technical trader. He's going to be someone you're going to want to learn from. And one of the best chartists, if that's a name, in the game, Grumps, are my cohort, my coworker, my analyst friend. He's also in the community. He's a fantastic chartist. He is a master of his craft. He has worked at it for over a decade, building a fantastic means of manipulating fibs to his favor. These are people you're going to want to learn from. Plus, you get more from me too. So if you love me, you'll love them. It's a great community. Check it out. The link is in my bio. And if you remember yesterday, you would have had the ability to catch in on a nice 40% overnight trade on that KRE, which was chef's kiss. Pretty solid. I'm very happy with that. Very, very happy. My small cap portfolio, so the seed to tree portfolio I run, is having, I think, its best day on record so far, up 6.45%. You guys know me. I'm happy with a 1% portfolio day. I'll ride that till the horses come home. I'll take that. I'm happy. More than that, we're real happy. Wow, 84 fills now. Beaut. What a beaut. Anyway, I'll stop gloating. Let's go back to our IWM trade. This might be like a legit day trade, right? Like the first spot I'm looking to trim again is up here at this 246.79 area. You are green right now, or as I say that, back to my entry. But this is, I think we're going to see, and I hate them. I hate them so much. If you watch me, you know I hate trend days. This is setting up for a bullish trend on IWM on the daily. So we'll see. It's got to not make a lower low here, but in general, this looks pretty good. It might need to consolidate just for a little bit here. You're seeing good volume up at this range while the MACD is kind of cooling, your RSI is cooling. So it's kind of letting the bears, it's like, I call it a bullish cool off. It's letting new bears try to enter. It's letting bulls take profit. So getting some level of consolidation at the highs of the day, right up here, basically where the POC is, before getting another leg is what you want to look for, especially if you're looking for a trend-like movement on a name like IWM today. Omar said, got in a bit lower than you on KRE yesterday and closed at 68. Hell yeah, man. That's great. That's still fantastic. Good for you. Keep up the great work. SPY kind of double bottoming on the day. I don't like this picture at all. I mean, I am still leaning bull. Like, I wouldn't be a bear, as I'm saying that we're getting a little bit of love here. I wouldn't be a bear by any means. And as I laid out this purple line to you guys back here at 932, this is where I would go long. I just chose not to because I decided the IWM long was a better risk exposure. But that was the spot to watch right here. Could still go long if you want to. I just, like I said, I prefer to have the exposure on IWM. And now that you're seeing this, little rally on the Qs, IWM down. So again, diverged markets today. You have to rock and roll with that. VVIX right now is sitting a little hot. I like VVIX under 100. Right now we're at 103.52, so we did gap up on our VVIX, which is interesting, considering that the market actually gapped up as well, right? The market was green. And I think the Qs, yeah, the Qs opened green. The Qs gapped up green as well, so did IWM. IWM was green on the open as well. So seeing VVIX up should give you some inkling of caution, mainly due to what VVIX is. It's the volatility of volatility. So how likely is volatility going to be more volatile? As redundant as that sounds, that's how you should understand it. And as long as the VIX is under 1830 up here, I'm pretty comfortable with where volatility is sitting on the VIX. Today's daily level you want to keep an eye on is going to be the 1775. As long as we're staying south of that, the market probably is going to be relatively calm. I want to choose my words carefully there. VIX is a little bit more elevated than I like it. I like it around 15, especially as a bull. So we are a little hot in general, but it's not awful. It's still kind of like on its way back down into that range after this little push here. So it's not going to just knife fall, obviously. So as long as we're in that direction, my bigger concern here is VVIX. So I'm going to want to keep an eye on this all day today. I think because of where volatility is sitting, because of where all the markets are sitting, this is more prevalent to our mega caps today specifically, that we see a higher VVIX and higher VIX in general with a higher market, right? Overall green day on the market and almost a green day on the Qs, but we gapped up on everything, right? Seeing higher VVIX and seeing higher VIX should be a cautionary tale today, specifically on where we're seeing weakness, right? Not necessarily where we're seeing strength, but I believe these levels are more elevated today due to the fact of how strongly correlated the Mag 7 are to the downside today as with the market's price action. Because remember, the VIX gets its value from the difference in the spread from SPX contracts. So if that spread is really, really wide right now, the reason why it's being wide at the moment is because all your Mag 7 names are red. Because otherwise, if we use IWM as your microcosm of how everything else is performing, you could also use RSP. So we could look at RSP. We understand that the market in general is having a good day. It's having a bull day, but the Mag 7 are holding it back. So if we're seeing that the VIX is higher, consequently, that's showing more bearishness theoretically with your Mag 7 names and not everything else, not the breadth. Right? Not the 493 as I like to call it. But I haven't looked at RSP today. Let's see if that supports my narrative. And it does. So RSP, if you don't know what this is your equal weight SPY, or your S&P 500, right? So this tells you how, if you put all the 500 companies in the SPY into a vacuum and they all traded at equal weight. So each one of those names is 1/500th of the ETF. How it would trade. And the fact that RSP is higher and more bullish than the SPY is supports my narrative that the market is seeming a little heavier today, mainly just due to the Mag 7 names, consequently supporting my narrative that the VIX is really only higher, theoretically, due to the fact that the Mag 7 names are heavy at the moment, which is due to the fact that we're seeing rotation into small caps today. How'd that work? Did that make sense to everyone? That was a very educational piece of piecing together what the market looks like today. So hopefully my yammering, my brain made sense there. But that is why you're seeing why today looks like today at this very moment. Because there is a lot of strength in the market right now. And people who are trading are seeing that strength. So consequently, they're taking their money out of the Mag 7 and putting it into other names where it could appreciate more, which is why your IWM is up, which is why your RSP is up, which is why your VIX is up, and which is why your SPY, conversely, is having like a rough go of it, and your Qs are down. There's your full picture. There's your Picasso. That makes sense, everyone? I really want to make that abundantly clear because days like today are rare where you see very, very obvious, I almost want to use the word footprints, where it's not necessarily like choppy or weird. It makes a lot of sense. You just got to look at the full picture. You got to look at all of these pieces to put it together to understand why the market's behaving like it is. And why, again, it's a bad idea for me personally, again, looking at the full picture, to look at a SPY 0-day option or even a SPY 1 DTE because I probably won't make as much money with higher risk than I would if I was patient. And even if I overbought, which I did, I paid a little bit of a premium. They're green now, but I paid a little bit of a premium for my IWM position. But guess what? It's going up. I really hope that makes sense because that is a good learning opportunity, I really think, for a lot of people. Those IWM contracts are sitting up about 10% right now, so not too shabby. And again, my first trim is going to be this purple line, so we're going to patiently wait there. Ooh, maybe I should talk about CoreWeave now that we're getting shot down a little bit, because it's actually below my entry. You guys want to hear about CoreWeave or you want to watch the market? One's in the chat if you want me to talk about CoreWeave and why I'm actually long on it. Two's in the chat if you want to stay focused on IWM at this moment and see where things go. So one's for CoreWeave, two for IWM in the general market. Let me know what you're thinking in the chat, and we will do it. Other names to keep an eye out on today. NMG. That one's flying under the radar for a lot of people. That's a name you may want to keep an eye out for. What else we got cooking up? Viking Therapeutics. Now, full transparency on that one. I'm up 50% on that one. So, I'm up pretty good on Viking, but Viking's been having a good move lately. VKTX, Viking Therapeutics, looking like it's having a decent day here. Honestly, like not even the names I have red in my portfolio are barely red. Like they're not even down that bad or that or really like at all. Like pretty chill was the terminology I wanted to use. Things look pretty chill. Now, if you did partake in that IWM spread, something you want to be knowledgeable of is as long as it stays above 246, this will close out in max profit. I'm alluding to the spread I talked about earlier this week. Above 246 is my max profit. Below 245 is my max loss. So if IWM does get some level of a rally, the only thing that I have is time premium in the sense that I'd be waiting for decay by the end of next Friday. So as long as it's north of 246, I don't care how high it goes because my risk is already defined. As long as it's north of 246, that's going to be a max gain play for me, which is fantastic. Toby says 1. Omar says stay on IWM. Moment you went away, it started dumping. Well, that splits the votes. SPY trying to move up. Q's just went green. So we'll see if we get some love here on our mega caps. You got NVIDIA getting a nice little V bottom here attempt. Look for over 195 before getting too jazzed on NVIDIA today. Google right now grinding to the downside, trying to put in some level of a bottom down here. Microsoft put in some wicks, but it's nowhere near out of the woods yet. Meta sucks. Eggs. Meta sucks. I actually want to establish a long on Meta. Not yet, but I do. I'm really interested in getting long on Meta. Hopefully mid fives. But the daily, the monthly, they don't look good. They really don't. We can get back to Teraflows even. That's like mid 400s. Somewhere in here is where I'd want to start dollar cost averaging in. I don't know if I'm going to be able to time the bottom on this one. Because this is not good. It's not something I want to be long on options by any means, but with equity, with the right entry, Meta doesn't look terrible. Not here, but eventually, when the evaluation makes sense. Apple looks okay on the daily chart. Tesla's real iffy. I saw some people were getting like real bullish on Tesla. I don't see it. I don't see a bear either, I'll be honest. I don't see it either way right now. But I think I've said that now for like the last 2 weeks. And as you could look at the price action, yeah, it's moved around on the daily candles, right? Up, down, which is what Tesla does. But hasn't really gone anywhere. Ever since it got this hard break, awesome break, right? Great for the bulls. But since then, just kind of chilling out up here. So I'm not terribly thrilled on it. If you're day trading it, by all means do it. You have plenty of opportunity to day trade Tesla. I've done it on this program before. But I would just be careful as an investment standpoint. It's questionable for both ways, honestly. IWM is just sitting around that 246. No big deal there. Getting a little bit of a sell-off. Well, it looks like all three markets are getting a little bit of a sell-off at the moment. SPY might just suck all day, honestly. It might be a very stock picker-esque kind of day at the moment. Let's see if we got any of the Fed speakers saying anything of interest or any news coming down the pike right now. Anthropic is going to invest $50 billion in new data centers. That's about it. Pretty quiet day, actually, even though we have a bunch of Fed speakers that are and will be speaking so far. Fairly quiet. All is quiet on the Eastern Front at the moment. I feel like the market could be waiting for I hate these guys' names because I'm not good at them. Besant. Yes, the Treasury Secretary to speak at 10:45. That's what I would be wagering a bet on right now. Toby says Meta would be an interesting topic in my opinion. I think it's starting to show that investors don't like massive capex spending as much as they used to. Thank you for saying that, Toby. It's weird because theoretically how the market's behaving right now is if we spend a ton of money, that's bullish, which seems dumb in a vacuum. I get why we're saying we're spending a lot of money. It's almost like R&D. You're going to first mover advantage, but spending a lot of money doesn't necessarily mean that you get a return, as some of you know from investing in general. So that is a concern with me with all of the Mag 7 names, but you also don't want to be the guy who's going to be saying I'm shorting all the Mag 7 names, because you're just going to get shot in the head, executed investor style, because it won't work out. It won't be fun. It won't. You're gonna have a bad time. But I do think there is a conversation to be had there in general with a lot of these companies, honestly, where the market, I think, is getting a little tired of. They're getting tired of growth in a sense, but they're getting tired of growth in the perspective of paying a lot of money in theory, in terms of on a balance sheet, and not seeing a return yet. Right? These companies are still growing, they're still like doing good with their core business, but as they're spending all this money, I don't think we're seeing the return. And again, I'm not a bear on the market. It is a concern I have in general, and I think we're going to see more of that sentiment come in next year. Honestly, the later half of next year. That's why I'm still pretty bullish until Q2. I'm targeting 770 on the SPY ideally, and 700 at least by end of year. With how a lot of these have been trading too, specifically Microsoft, this doesn't inspire a ton of confidence in general. And this is 2 quarters here. You got 2 earnings, and both got shot down, and both weren't awful, right? Meta, the last 3 earnings, right? Or no, 3, 2. It had a gap up, and that one just kind of trended to the downside as well. And then another earnings like flop ultimately, right? Google's been pretty solid, and they make pretty good stuff. I think the market's happy with Google, and this is why I call it your canary in the coal mine. I think the market's really happy with how Google is with their capital, their capex, right? How they're spending money, how they're utilizing their funds in general. Google makes a pretty good product, and things they make are pretty solid in general, and I think the market's more okay with that versus a Microsoft or versus a Meta, at least in my opinion. Apple is actually kind of doing the smart thing, in my opinion, where it's theoretically outsourcing some of that like AI-ness to Google, right? And it's not actually taking the brunt of that. It's just paying Google to do it for them, which isn't a bad thing. They're focusing more on their business. I'm going to say something that I think is mildly controversial. I don't think Apple is going to be one of the top 20 biggest companies in 2 years. I think they've hit a maturity phase. I think they don't innovate at all. I think they're sitting on a mountain of money. In fact, the only way I think that Apple actually stays as one of the Magnificent Seven, as one of the largest companies in the world, it'll still be a big company, don't get me wrong. I think the valuation is going to come down, is what I'm saying. But I think the only way Apple holds on to its reins at this high in general is if it buys other companies with all the cash it has, to then just slap the Apple sticker on it. Now it's an Apple product, it's an Apple company, right? I think that's where they find growth, if anything. Otherwise, they're in the mature phase. And if any of you went to business school or whatever, you understand there's a startup, there's a growth phase, the mature phase, and then there's a decline. And I think Apple is in the mature phase right now, where it makes a lot of money, but the growth and the innovation aren't there anymore, which is what Apple was built on. It's built on innovation. It was built on creative ideas, and they've just gotten too comfortable. And I feel like I've gone on this rant before on this program, but that's what it is, unfortunately. Pop back to the market. SPY just made a new low a day. The Qs are almost there, and IWM did get shot all the way back down to the 200 MA here. So we'll keep an eye on that. I'm actually All right, I am long the 246 zeros on IWM now as well for 35 cents. Excuse me. So now we'll keep an eye on those. So instead of averaging down on my 1 DT, I'm taking a little bit more risk on in this case. On the IW, I'm looking for the 200 MA bounce back to POC here is all I'd be looking for theoretically on the zeros. And maybe I could let them run and do their thing. But that's what I'm going to keep an eye on right now. Let me log that real quick. What was that? 246s. 35. 246 put 131. There we go. All right. Copy, paste. There we go. Okay. Toby says, have you seen the new Apple product? I thought it was AI for the first time. Took me convincing that this is reality. What is the new Apple product? Maybe I haven't. Maybe you can change my opinion. Maybe I have not seen the new Apple product. Guys, as a reminder, we have 7 likes right now. I've got a low view count today. Probably because the stream cut out, but got about 55 people here at the moment. So wherever you're watching, if you want the stream to go to at least 11, pop over to the YouTube stream. If we hit 12 likes, then we'll go to 11 o'clock. Otherwise, we'll do my core weave thing in a minute here, and then we'll make like a ball and bounce. Right now, we're keeping an eye on this 200 MA on IWM. We could realistically sweep back down to 244.98, reaffirm, because this was an old resistance, reaffirm this now as new support, then bounce and go. But either way, I'm not worried about either of these. Just kind of be a wait and see kind of thing. Omar says it's a Labubu for tech pros. It's a phone sock. All right, now you're going to make me look it up. Apple. I'm going to type in phone sock. See what I get. Apple's new iPhone accessory is part sock, part crossbody strap. That is... Oh, words I need to pick carefully. That is really... Okay, I'll say it like this. If I was a straight man, I would not buy that product. If I'm a straight man, I'm looking at this product, I'm not purchasing it. It's kind of what I'm thinking here. Oh, there we go with the 0 DTE popping off here for 41 cents. Gonna trim some out here. Oh, I actually filled 42. Let's go. That's 20%. That's going to buffer, obviously, some of those 1 DTE drawback here. Should get a nice continuation. Watch a break above and push here. We'll see in a sec. To be safe, I'll slap a stop on it, actually. On the 0, because if it does reject and break the 200, I can get back in at the 244.98. So to be very clear, sorry, I was just typing that out for Discord. If we do break the 200 MA, that's going to set my 0 DTE red more than likely. Well, now, so that's why I put a break even at stop loss at break even, because if that occurs, there's a strong possibility of sweeping the 244.98 level, that old resistance, new support. At that point, I could reestablish a 0 DTE long and then write it again. So it's a win-win either way, but I'm just kind of being a little bit safe here in the event that we do sweep back down anyway. But still rocking a nice 20% gain on those at the moment. Nothing to scoff at. Dead Money says, is there a GoFundMe for Starlink Internet? Appreciate you. Hopefully it won't be necessary. I mean, I don't... So just without doxing myself or saying too much, I live in a very overcast area, and I've looked into it, and satellite internet apparently would be very bad. It is very unreliable, I guess I should say, in very overcast areas. And where I am, it's very overcast. So, unfortunately, Starlink does not save me in this scenario. Otherwise, I would have considered it already. Messy's telling me to check the retail price. All right, brother. Let's check the retail price of the new... Okay, it's called the iPhone Pocket. Introducing the iPhone Pocket, a beautiful way to wear and carry an iPhone. Okay. It looks like it looks like a grandmother knitted this. $150 or $230 for the long strap design. You know, in all honesty, this is a massive opportunity for all the Etsy girls out there to knit this at home and sell it as the knockoff version for like $20, or even Alibaba. Maybe I should long Alibaba, or maybe I should long more Pinduoduo, because at this point, there's nothing unique. There's not. I'm kerfuffled, baffled even. Can I short Apple? Can I full port short it? I I had no knowledge of this, and I'm like actually, yeah, kerfuffled is the word I want to use. Perplexed, at a loss of words. I mean, hey, people buy dumb things all the time, right? Like Supreme products or designer clothes or whatever. But this literally looks like a grandmother knitted this. It does not look like it's something that should cost that much or have the functionality to cost that much. Omar says Steve Jobs is rolling in his grave. I bet you he is. For sure. Oh, stop got triggered on the 0 DTE. Keep an eye on that, though, because I will consider a re-entry. Again, if we go down to here. That's why I put that stop on. And if it just taps the 200 and bounces and we keep going, I have the one DTE exposure. So either way, I'm in a win-win scenario here. I realized the gains on the zeros. We weren't greedy. I have an opportunity to reposition myself for a better lower entry. And I still have exposure if it takes off to the upside. So no matter how you slice it, I'm in a winning scenario here. Toby says, I'm actually thinking this is free money, even if they sell 15 of them. You know what, Toby? You're right. Good counterpoint. I didn't think of that. Because it costs nothing to make. I mean, arguably, their iPhones don't cost much to make either, theoretically. But this is literally yarn. They probably use the same sweatshop Nike uses, right? Messi says, to be fair, it's a collab with an artist that's already sold out. Interesting. They'll sell a few to Kim Kardashian. You know, Toby, you changed my thought process a little bit on it. That's a really valid rebuttal. That it would be free money. Because it would cost them nothing. That's a really valid rebuttal. You're making me think twice about it. Because they're leveraging, what they're doing is they're leveraging their brand, right? They're saying, we have a hot brand. People want to buy it because we have a hot brand, right? So that's smart. And they're getting high margins for having a hot brand. So, can I hate it? I can't hate it. If you think of it that way, you're right. It would be free money. Toby says, no way it's sold out. All right, be ready on those zeros if you're interested. I'm probably going to start scooping some up here. Okay. All right, I'm long the zeros again at 28 cents. Little early, but we're looking for that 245 hold. Again, this 244.98 area to hold as well. So we'll keep an eye right here. Little risky, right? But good managed risk here, especially on a zero, especially if we're expecting some level of sharp return here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red candles in a row. This should be old resistance, new support at this point. So that's kind of what we're looking at here, at least for the 0 DT exposure. Now, I will say the market's pretty heavy. We're kind of just consolidating here on the Qs. SPY is obviously moving a little bit more south, mainly due to the IWM being a little weaker at this point in time, and the Qs not being strong either. But I'm betting on our small cap bulls to hold this together here and push to the upside. So that is the bet we're placing here. All right, let's get the iPhone socks off my screen. let's roll into. I want to roll into the CoreWeave. A little CoreWeave talk here. Won't be long. Quick little. I know recording will be a nice little quick little video here. And when I pop back, we'll see if my IWM 0 DTE worked out. How's that sound? How do you like that for ballsy? All right, let's get a record going here. A record of what we're talking about. Here, what I'll do actually, I'm going to set, just so you guys know, I'll set a limit sell. I'm doing some math. I'll set a limit sell at 35 cents, like a trim on my zeros. And that way, if it happens while I'm recording, you know, I'll be forced to take profit. And that would be for about 25% gains. So that'd be pretty solid too. And that way, if it pops off while I'm talking, great. We might get it right now before I even go into my shtick. 0.32, 0.33 bid-ask spread. Maybe 3 more cents here, maybe, right before I talk. Maybe. Omar says that's literally the sell limit I put. Yeah, man. I mean, that puts you, again, you lost like, what, a few minutes of theta here, theoretically, but that puts you like about where the 200 MA is. Again, if we're just looking at like price action, those contracts should be around 35 cents around there. So that's a good point to put a sell. Back test the 200 and it rejects, I might be able to get a fill there. So we'll see. Anyway, let's talk about CoreWeave. Record this. So this is CoreWeave, and this is a name that a lot of you may have heard of. It's a hot name right now, and it has been kicked in the teeth recently, but I'm going to tell you why. I personally just opened a long on CoreWeave and what you should consider looking out for. Now, in case you don't know what CoreWeave is, I've outlined a few bull catalysts, so 5 bull catalysts and 5 potential bear catalysts in the near term. And CoreWeave, I won't really talk about what they do necessarily, but I will talk about what to watch for as a bull and as a bear potentially with where it's currently sitting in terms of its price. Now, in terms of bull catalysts, we've had decent earnings momentum. We had strong quarters with ongoing AI demand, which is driving that top line growth, which is what you want to see for a company like this, especially after it's been beaten down. Those are some good things you want to kind of lean back on or lean as a support for your thesis if you are a bull. Another bull catalyst you want to look out for is their backlog. So they have a massive backlog of essentially free money here, money they're looking to take advantage of. Where they have take or pay contracts that ensure that they have near-term revenue. I want to use the word like visibility. That revenue is there to take advantage of if they can capitalize on it. They do have those big partnerships. Here's your third point here with a lot of these Mag 7 names. They have decent ties with Microsoft and OpenAI, which shows that they have strong demand, that they're, it gives product validation that what they have produces very good. They align with NVIDIA, obviously, with this whole bull run narrative in general, and they're positioned to directly benefit from that global GPU shortage and the AI boom. It makes them sets them in the bullish category. So as that demand climbs and climbs and climbs and climbs and no one's necessarily there to fill it, that's actually pretty bullish for CoreWeave in general. And your last bull catalyst here is, I believe because of how fresh it is, because how new it is, because it is an IPO or recent IPO, all things considered, that investors are viewing dips on this name as potential entry points. They're looking at the much, much, much bigger picture, right? As I am in a respect, which is why I opened up a bull position on CoreWeave recently. Now, it would be disingenuous to open up a bull position, not consider the bear side of things. So a few bear things you want to keep an eye out for is that they have a strong customer concentration, right? They're relying very strongly on a few large clients, as is kind of their business model. So if there is a strong pullback, it could hurt them quite a bit. That exposure to if there is a pullback in AI demand or in general, if CapEx spending goes down, that could be a bear catalyst for CoreWeave. The other thing you want to be, or the other 4 things you want to be mindful of is that any execution risk of things going south could be very bearish for CoreWeave. So meaning if there are data center delays or guidance cutting, that could crush sentiment for this name. So it's something you want to be mindful of. Obviously, we alluded to CapEx burn for other companies, but for this company too, you have massive spending and you have these lease obligations that are going to be like a chokehold on its cash flow. So if the growth slows down and the capex stays high, that's going to be a really bad time for a company like CoreWeave. Now, obviously, another bear point you want to keep an eye on is your competitive pressure. There's other companies that do this. I would argue that CoreWeave is probably the best at what it does. But there are some cheaper AI cloud rivals that could start biting into their margins, could start to take away some market share. I think they've got a pretty strong foothold in that, in my opinion. So I'm not too concerned about that part necessarily, but I think it would be disingenuous not to bring it up at least. And lastly, there could be supply or macro risks in general, as there are potential GPU bottlenecks. Or if we see enterprise AI budget slow, that could stall the growth also for CoreWeave. So those are your bull and your bear catalysts for CoreWeave, and pretty summed up pretty concisely. If you're interested in CoreWeave, you're looking to have a pure play on AI's infrastructure specifically. So if AI continues to be a hot trend, keeps building and building and building, and the demand keeps going up and up and up, which I think is a pretty safe thing to say, there could be very, very big upside for a company like CoreWeave. But it is delicate at this point in time because you're at a point where things aren't so concrete. So if they execute poorly, like I alluded to, if they miss a quarter, if growth is bad for whatever reason, I don't think the market will be very forgiving. I think it will brutalize this name for what it's worth. So there is a little bit of a high risk, high reward kind of feel with this name. Now, the reason why I opened up a long equity position on CoreWeave here is multifolded, right? So this is CoreWeave, right? We IPO'd back in February or March of 25, so it's not even a year old yet. Had a hard rally up to this 187 spot, and we came down and back tested the golden pocket right down here in August. Now, since then, you got a little bit of a rally. However, we're now double bottoming, or revisiting, I should say, that golden pocket down here as we're falling on earnings recently. So, whoops, move that. Well, that messes things up a little bit, but you're back in this zone here where basically in the middle of the GP is where I entered, and now you're a little bit lower than my entry, but around this level is an area where you can consider it with decent risk to reward, even if you're just playing to where it was a few short days ago, back to your POC up here. You're looking at about a 6.5 to 1 risk to reward scenario here on equity alone, where essentially you could risk a few, I believe I put a dollar stop underneath this 52-week low, or I guess it's not technically a 52-week low, but underneath this localized low of 84.40, and I believe I put a stop at 83.5, going off rough memory, and targeting that POC to the upside here, 133.99, and of course it could go much higher. But I believe based off of how this is sitting right now, you are buying a bit of a knife. However, that downside risk, you're only looking or standing to lose about 7% on equity, which again is a decent amount on equity. But when you consider the long opportunity of potentially making 48% or more if it goes above that POC level, I believe that CoreWeave actually offers a very interesting opportunity here on the chart, where again with a managed stop, and that's very, very, very important that I say that one more time, with a managed stop beneath this level, it offers an interesting risk to reward scenario here if you want to entertain and position in CoreWeave as it currently stands. So that's my take on CoreWeave. Let me know what you guys think. Ooh, IWM sold off there. No bueno. No, Mr. IWM. Well, now we're at the 5 minute. The 5 minute 200 and closing POC. So we'll see if this recovers. Otherwise, I'll cut my zeros out. Oh, my back. So you'll look for this level to recover here in this 5 minute candle. This is a bit overstated. And as long as we didn't have news to cause the drop, it will, with a strong certainty, reverse back to the upside. The Treasury Secretary just started speaking, so we'll see. That could affect things, obviously. But we really should stay above. You have a strong point of confluence down here. This should really revert back to the upside there. Not good for 0-day options, obviously, but if I'm patient, I'm not too worried about it. We will see. It's also basically your red to green spot as well. So this should leave a pretty gnarly wick here and pop back to the upside. We will see. How's the SPY? Yep, SPY fell on that as well. Qs fell on that as well. VVIX is still pretty flat. And although we had a tiny pop on volatility, we're above that 1775. We should sink back beneath that. So this would realistically be the lows on the day, unless there's a news catalyst to push that harder. So unless there's a reason or someone says something, which the Treasury Secretary is speaking right now, and we do have Fed speakers and a press briefing at 1, so something could be said in the middle of the day here that could change that narrative. But as it sits right now, here in general for the overall market should really be kind of like the low of the day. We really shouldn't go much lower. This should really be the lid on volatility today. I would look for a UVXY to, if it can sink under 10, then you'll probably swing a pretty strong bull momentum. However, because of how the Mag 7 names are sitting today, I wouldn't hang your hat on that. I'd be more concerned about seeing your VIX sub 1775, not seeing expansion on VVIX necessarily. And this low probably, like, more than likely will hold though. So we will see. Not too worried about it. Anyway, it is 10:39. Did we get our likes? I don't think we did. We did not get our likes, unfortunately. So we're going to wrap up the stream here. I'm probably going to end up doing a Friday stream. And if you're in the Discord, we'll be doing probably a power hour stream sometime this week. Feeling it out because I got a lot to do this week. So I don't like making promises I can't keep. So I don't want to give you guys hard dates. But and once I actually move and sell properties and whatnot, then I'll be here more often and we'll have a hard schedule. But until then, I'd stick with me, roll with the punches, follow me on X if you haven't already. I'll let you guys know as soon as I know when I go live. As it pertains to IWM on that 0 day, you're going to want to watch the back test of the 200 MA. Like I said, that low a day should hold. I'm not really worried about it. You're going to want to watch that back test of the 200 MA on the 1 minute to break above that to continue back to the upside. Will probably happen. This is just a little bit of the Wyckofians will call it a spring. This is not a Wyckoff pattern by any means or anything. I'm just saying a sweep of lower price before getting a hard rally is essentially what a spring is if you're a Wyckofian, which is kind of what you're going to see here. You're going to see a sweep and more than likely a pop. Obviously, we need to stay over that 245 area, the 244.98. More importantly, we realistically should get back above the 200 MA. We realistically should see volume come in and realistically get back to the high a day on IWM. Wouldn't shock me in general. As long as, here's your qualifying factor, the VIX stays below 1775. As long as the VIX stays below 1775 and also the VVIX doesn't go much higher, then you're more than likely just fine on IWM. And for both of these contracts, for what it's worth, I will stand on that. The downside is, especially on the 0, if we don't start moving here by like noon, I'd be a little bit more concerned because obviously you have that time factor. But I'm not worried. I'll if you're in the Discord, I'll let you know when I'm worried. I'm not worried. So we'll see. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for the show today. Make sure you're following me on X. If you haven't, I'll let you guys know when I'm going live again. And if you're in the Discord, I'll let you know when we're doing a live stream in the Discord as well. And as always, some will say you need an extra trade. Well, I like to look at things from a different angle. That's always what we get right here on the Atomcash angle. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And remember, precision beats prediction every damn time. I will see you later this week. Take care, guys.
Time has passed, and that's a wrap.